Okay, well, good morning, everybody. It is morning across the states, and anyone joining us internationally, good evening or good afternoon. My name is Tom Lewis, and welcome to our very first Summer Bootcamp. We're going to have a series of webinars on a weekly basis with a couple breaks in between some of the weeks to take you through a particular objective to solve a problem within your organization and how emergency reporting can help you solve that problem. So keep in mind that we're going to be topic focused on and addressing a specific objective. This has been something new we're doing, so both customers and prospects alike will be here. So keep that in mind as you're participating throughout the next hour. I'm going to have some polls throughout the session, and we're also going to have time for questions and answers. So I am here flying solo from emergency reporting right now. I may have a wingman join me a little bit later, but I will answer your questions. My goal is always to answer all the questions before we wrap up the session. So keep that in mind. And I just want to welcome you taking time out of your busy schedules to join us. If there's any audio issues or video issues, just shoot it off as a question. I'll see it pop up on the screen here and address it accordingly. So without further ado, let's get started. So week one, today we're going to talk about PPE management. So here's the lay of the land for our first week of Summer Bootcamp. We're going to do a quick introduction, go over the objective, give you a little bit background, especially those of you that are not yet customers with emergency reporting, just give you a very brief background on who we are, the features that we're going to go over today that pertain to the objective we're going to solve, and then we'll do push-ups for your brain, PPE management. My name's Tom Lewis. I'm a business development analyst with emergency reporting. I've been with emergency reporting since 2011 as a part-time regional trainer. Then upon retirement after 22 years of service in Southern Arizona, I became a full-time Department of Defense and international trainer, and currently assigned as a business development analyst, subject matter expert for our business development and sales team. So it has been, I've been blessed to have two really amazing careers, 22 years in the fire service, retiring as a battalion chief, and then being able to work for an outstanding company like Emergency Reporting. So I just want to share some of that love with you guys today and show you how you can really make a difference in managing your PPE. So here we are, and this is the focus of everything we're going to talk about. We want to keep this boot camp topic driven and solution oriented. And so we want to be able to address this question: how can I improve my agency's critical responsibility of PPE management that truly adheres to NFPA 1851? Some of you are going, yeah, I know what 1851 is. And then some of you are going, what is that standard exactly? And we're going to do a quick overview of that as well today. Before we proceed, I just want to give you a little bit of background, especially those of you that are new to emergency reporting. We currently serve over 460,000 personnel within our system. Of those, 165,000 of them are authorized unique users. In other words, they have a full-on login and have access to the system. We serve, and I think we're even beyond almost 6,800 now, but we serve, I can say with confidence, we serve well over 6,600 departments worldwide. We follow the agile software development process. It's a way of developing software where we're constantly improving the system on a 2-week schedule. So we have what's called 2-week sprints. You'll probably, if you don't have automatic updates on your mobile devices, you'll probably notice there'll be a surge of updates needed for your mobile apps. And typically, that surge will come like weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. And when that surge comes, well, all of a sudden you've got the little red indicator saying you've got 10 updates to your apps. Chances are those companies are also following the agile software development. And so that's why there's that surge on a periodic basis, because we're doing release, in emergency reporting's case, we're doing a release every 2 weeks. Our uptime is 99.99%. And if we were just 3 nines, the 99.9% uptime and reliability, that would mean out of the entire year, we are down less than 8.76 hours for the entire year. So we strive to maintain that reliability so you can continue to do your work uninterrupted. 24/7 support, 0600 to 1800 for priority 2 and 3. Priority 1 is 24 hours, and that's for major issues such as CAD interruptions, system down, other things that prevent use of the system. But for general support, we're up 10 hours a day throughout the business week. We support agency compliance with a lot of NFPA standards. We have enterprise contracts with both currently the United States Marine Corps and the United States Army. A tremendous relationship with both of those entities. And then we also have a robust partner community. We know that we have a fantastic solution and we serve as the platform, but sometimes you need something a little more. You're a bigger department, you run a more complex operation for something like scheduling. So we have some terrific scheduling partners that we work with that help support our daily roster, where through our APIs, the data gets fed into our daily roster from a scheduling program. So we have many relationships with different partners throughout the fire service software industry. We have 16 system modules, and this is just a quick rundown. Those of you that have been using emergency reporting know that we're constantly changing and updating these. In fact, we have a whole new user interface that we've just released for the events module, the reports module coming soon. In the months ahead, you'll see a new look to the occupancy module. So a lot of exciting changes and enhancements to the system that are continually being updated, like I said, every 2 weeks. And sometimes they're really big changes, sometimes they're bug fixes, and sometimes just minor enhancements. But the systems, it's not like running calls. It's always nice to get back from a call and you do your paperwork, you're done. There's a sense of closure and completion. Well, software is never finished. Over 600 system reports. Again, this is primarily for those of you being first-time introduction to emergency reporting, some of the things that our system can do. One of the elements that we're going to focus on today pertains to safety analytics, and it's a tool to help you adhere to NFPA 1500. 10 gauges feeding one master gauge, and the one gauge we're going to look at today is the PPE gauge. And that's where it comes into extremely good PPE management, but you don't have to have the PPE gauge to still manage your PPE successfully. All right, so the standard I had mentioned that we're going to focus on today and solve that particular concern and priority within our organizations is NFPA 1851, the standard on selection, care, and maintenance of protective ensembles for structural firefighting and proximity firefighting. And the latest edition currently is the 2014 edition. So it's like NFPA documents, they weren't written for us firefighters. We know we like lots of hands-on and lots of pictures. That's not NFPA, but they are the documents that drive our organization. Some of you have immersed yourself in these different standards, both 1500, 1851, 1001, 1021. There's so many that govern what we do. And many organizations even have in their standards of cover, their bylaws and such, that they adhere to these various standards. So 1851 encompasses everything that pertains to managing your PPE as far as care for those, the PPE, and how you're going to document it. And so what I want to show you is what we're going to cover today is what emergency reporting can focus and help you solve. And that's chapter 4, 4.3 to be specific, on records. Okay, and that's going to be the focus of how I can show you emergency reporting can help you adhere to this particular part. You're going to be doing the inspections in chapter 6, the cleaning and decontamination, and we know there are some very specific ways to clean our PPE. But God forbid something were to happen, whether it's an injury, line of duty death, the one thing that's going to be asked for is your documentation from the time you took that piece of equipment out of the package to the time of the incident, or hopefully after a long career in use to the time it's disposed of. So if you look at the yellow here, this is from 4.3, and we've got 4.3.3, okay? This is the part we're going to talk about today. At least the following records shall be kept for each protective ensemble or ensemble element. All right, person to whom the element is issued, And in our system, you're able to track the transfer of ownership if that ever occurs, date and condition when issued, the manufacturer and model name or design, ID number, lot number or serial number, month and year of manufacture, date and finding of advanced inspections, date and findings of advanced cleaning or decon, reason for the above, date of repairs, who did it, and a brief description, date of retirement, and date of method and disposal. So our system can support this, that if you're striving to adhere to NFPA standards, this is going to be one element. And we know that documentation, paperwork as we call it, keyboard work really now, is not why we all join the fire service, but it's an integral part of managing a high quality fire department. So let's jump in and do this right now. Get in there and take a look at the solutions available here. So this is NFPA 1851. I'm going to copy this and put it in the chat for everybody. This is the link that will take you to it. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is that to get the actual document in an editable or shareable PDF, you have to become an NFPA member and purchase them. However, this little button here will give you free access. Okay, and by clicking this, it allows you to view the different editions of that particular standard. Now you can't download it, you can't edit it, things like that. Not that you would edit it, but you can't, it's not portable per se where you can download the PDF, but it's a great research tool as you're looking to institute different NFPA standards within your organization. Okay, we're going to jump right into emergency reporting. So a quick lay of the land here. We're going to log in, and I know that those of you that are with emergency reporting, this is an old hat for you. Those of you that are new to us, when you first log in, you're going to get the welcome page, what we call our dashboard. And for today's purposes, we're going to jump straight to the maintenance module. And while I'm doing that, and while this page is loading, I've got a couple poll questions I want to ask you guys. First one, real quick. And think of this as all-encompassing, knowing that an 1851 standard for PPE is going to be part of an NFPA 1500 program. So I'm going to launch this quick question. All right, does your department have a 1500 program? And so go ahead and take a look there, and we'll give everybody a chance to vote. All right, everybody's coming on board. So yes, they're coming in, right on. Okay, we've got about 5 more seconds. So if you're multitasking, it's okay. Just take a quick look up at your screen and vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, last chance. Take a look at your screen. Did you vote? All right, thanks everybody. All right, so here's the results. So about a quarter of you have one, quarter of you don't, and then the sort of. So that's where I would be in my department too, back in the day. So we have elements of it that we're instituting, but we probably don't have a formalized at 1500 program. We're picking and choosing based on our limited resources. And so the goal today is, thank you, everybody knows what 1500 is, that's good. So the goal today is to help you take that step to have this part of a 1500 program for PPE management, something that you feel confident that you can start implementing. 1500 is like 1710 and 1720. Some of these standards are very difficult. I've never seen a department that's 100% adhering to some of these standards, especially these big ones like 1500, but it's always a work in progress and you're always striving to be better. So those of you that are in the sort ofs, you're in very good company out there with most of us. So thank you for responding there. All right, so in our maintenance module, we've got a few things that I want to show you. You'll notice, and some of you will notice, well, how come I don't have the shield here for these categories? This is part of the full safety analytics module, all right? And so it's absolutely okay if you don't have it. However, having the safety analytics package gives you some more enhanced tools for PPE management. Many of you, if you don't have it, we'll just have a category down below called PPE that you're using to manage your PPE as a standard equipment category. So what we've got here is we've got a category. So this is essentially a 4-tier table. And when I say 4-tier, tier number 1 is your PPE category. or powered rescue equipment category. Tier number 2 is a subcategory. Tier number 3 is the actual piece of equipment. And then tier number 4, and we'll just do one real quick, would be any pending maintenance. So if I'm requesting maintenance in our system, I can also send an email to whomever is responsible for doing that cleaning or testing. In this case, we'll skip that for right now. And so tier 4 is any outstanding, yet to be completed maintenance items. So I just said that we need to do a cleaning of this particular coat, but it hasn't been assigned or scheduled to anybody. And this is something firefighters can do. And it's permission driven as well. So you can let them have just permissions to request, they can have permissions to schedule, or they can have permissions to actually complete the maintenance as well. All right, so this red icon here, this indicates that something, a piece of equipment in this category is out of service. Which one is it? Now this is easy because there's only one piece of equipment here, but boots 111. So we've got the ID number, serial number, who it's issued to. This is where you request maintenance. This is its entire maintenance history. This is where you edit the item. And again, not everyone will have this permission. And then below, as you can see, it is out of service and it's due for an NFPA annual test. And so this is the at a glance look at the grid and how you can manage PPE from this grid. All right, now I can look and see everything that's issued to Dave Adams and see all of his equipment. Now, so this, you don't have to have safety analytics to do all of this. And so I can see every piece of equipment assigned to him and the essential status of it. Any questions so far? I'm going to do a quick take here, see if we've got any questions coming in. Okay, not yet. Okay, great. So again, easy to use, permissions driven by what you want to grant people or not, and always take advantage of these filters up here and the ability to sort high and low. So another question that I want to address here as we're going through this is the following. So we're going to clear out Dave. The grid goes back to its default view. And I notice here when we were building this, we've got structural coats and we've got coat. If I look here, it's like, oh yeah, these are all my structure coats, but why do I have 2 categories? I don't want 2 categories. Not a problem. I'm going to move these pieces of equipment and I don't have to move them one at a time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check that category, or I should say subcategory. All of these pieces of equipment will be highlighted. I am going to edit them in a batch and I'm going to move them to PPE. I'm going to move them to a subcategory that I really want it to be in, structural coats. Not worrying about ownership right now. I'm going to save. And so as the system processes it, those 71 pieces of equipment went into the correct category. I don't need this category anymore because there's 0 pieces of equipment. I'm going to move over here. The delete category icon is now enabled because there is no longer, I have severed any parent-child relationship, which means there are no children in this parent category. So the parents can't leave until you kick the kids out of the house. And so I just did that. We're going to delete that category, and now I've got a cleaned up table. And we got a question, so let's see what we got here. David asked, we use the full version of Halligan, but are having issues with information syncing, so my Halligan info is only partially in ER. David, just since this is outside the scope of today's webinar, what I will recommend that you do is go ahead and send a support ticket in to our support team. They're there now, and they'll be able to help you quite quickly as far as any sync issues on the Halligan side of the house. That we won't be addressing, we won't be diving into Halligan today. And those of you that are new to us, Halligan is one of our the partners I had mentioned before that we have integrations with. Halligan is one of them, and they allow for equipment and truck checks. Okay, so I want to go back and I want to talk about pieces of equipment and addressing the parts of NFPA 1851 that we had mentioned on 4.3.3, which is the elements that are a part of a piece of equipment. Then we'll go into some of the fun, fancy stuff. Okay, so here I can go in and edit this piece of equipment. So one of the key things to keep in mind, one of the first items, and I'll go through all of them, but I want to go in order of NFPA's list. So the person to whom this particular element of the ensemble is issued. I can edit that ownership. And when it comes to PPE, because it's issued to an individual, you're going to want to assign it to a person. So Dave Adams has been promoted and is actually going to another fire department. He's taken a job with another department. So his gear is still in great shape. He doesn't get to take his gear with him because I know we have that in many organizations, but it's in good enough shape that Trey's is worn out. So I'm going to issue this piece of equipment to Trey. Reason for changing ownership. Okay, I'm going to change it. And so now this piece of equipment is owned by Trey. One of the other key elements here is the date and condition when issued. Now, one of the things I probably should have done is document that condition within the notes. All right, and I can do that when I transfer it over. One other key thing to keep in mind is now we have the entire history of that piece of equipment. So with good documentation from the time it's taken out of the package to the time it's disposed of, you can have its entire history. And again, God forbid something were to happen to somebody in your organization, if they're going to come and ask for all of this documentation, and you're going to be able to provide it within a couple clicks. Some of the other elements, manufacturer and model name or design, you can see we've got all of those elements here. So model, type, manufacturer. We've got an ID number, that's here. Serial number, so it's asked for either the serial or the lot number. We've got that here. And you can see even our terminology matches because we built this to adhere to 1851. Month and year of manufacturer. And then now one of the other elements that are listed is like date and findings of advanced inspections. That's not going to be here under the equipment data sheet. That's going to be in another area that I'll show you here momentarily. We can also change its status to in and out of service. So if it goes out of service, one of the things you're going to notice and thankfully when this was built, you have to put in certain elements here. We know turnouts are expensive. And now it should accept it. Notice that changed from Dave to Trey and it's turned red because it's out of service. So when it comes to its maintenance history, that's this icon over here. So you can see clean post-fire, test. So you have essentially its maintenance history and its ownership history, and it's all easily accessible with just a few clicks. Now, it's important that one thing we talk about when we're training our system is that you've got good stuff in, so you get good stuff out. None of this happens and you go to pull this report and you know a lot's happened with this, but if someone hasn't taken the time to make these entries, it's going to be next to meaningless. So it takes persons with responsibility in the organization, and that can be down to the firefighter level when it comes to their gear, to be able to document all of this. Some of the other elements when you do a repair. So for example, let's say we're going to do a full-on complete of our repair. And so we're going to say we had a minor repair. Let's see, am I in a coat, left arm at elbow? All right, it was completed. It can be completed by a person in the organization or by a vendor. So now emergency reporting is branching off into doing turnout management. We'll skip any kind of fuel element, of course. I'm going to put it back in service. It's going to time and date stamp it because you can have a record of how long pieces of equipment and apparatus in our system is out of service. That it passed. Any cost involved? Notes. And so forth. Take pictures or invoices or test sheets can be loaded here. And then we're going to go ahead and complete and close it. I'm going to send an email to my captain that we're good, or if I am the person responsible for all of this maintenance, third party, you can grant them access to this module only, and they can send an email both to the firefighter and to the company officer or the person managing the program internally in the department. And then now I can go see I have another item on its history. All right, I'm going to take a quick pause for questions. Yeah, they're coming in good. Okay, stand by, everybody. I want to be able to answer these questions for you. Excellent. So Kaylin's asking, can you assign multiple pieces of equipment to staff, and how do you designate which is the spare and which is primary? Excellent. I'll get to that here in a minute, and I'll actually show you. And what report, and I was getting, Byron's must be reading my mind because we're going to go into reports here also. So what report gives you all the information concerning the coat that was transferred to one employee from one employee to another? I'll show you those reports. I even have some examples up over here on one of these other tabs. We're a small department from Spencer. We're a small department and don't have 2 sets for every firefighter. Would you change ownership every time we use surplus turnouts while others are cleaned or repaired? That's a great question, Spencer. And again, some of these other ones I'm going to go back to because I'm going to actually show you within our system. But this one, so would I change ownership every time we use surplus turnouts while others are cleaned or repaired? I would say, and again, we can kind of get some thoughts from everybody else out there. I think it would absolutely depend on how long that person's going to be issued that set of turnouts temporarily. So I would recommend personally, just personally, for that temporary ownership, unless it's happening constantly, well, even if it is, I think there's some value in assigning it to that person for that temporary period because you can see where it's been and who has had it. So I think without thinking too deeply about it right now, I'm tending towards not a bad practice that once you transfer a set of surplus turnouts that you temporarily give that ownership to that person. And remember, our system will track that too. And so then you can reassign it back to the surplus closet. And Elliot, I'm jumping ahead to Elliot's question. So is there a way to designate turnout gear in storage? So that kind of goes with Spencer's question. Yes, absolutely. I'll show you that. I'm glad you asked that. Jay, thanks for joining us. I think he had to step out. He just sent a little message. How would you document disposal versus out of service? Out of service leaves the red icon. Brad, all great questions. Let's answer those. And then we still haven't even got to the good stuff yet. Okay, so so if I have to dispose of this piece of equipment, but I don't know what I'm gonna do. I know some in Arizona, we've donated them to the Bomberos down in Mexico because these guys they have such tremendous spirit, but they don't have a lot of funds. And so they get used turnouts. Now, some may go to making backpacks and such, or they may just be destroyed. What I recommend is, say, Trey's coat right here, and you can do this in batches. Okay, so let's see if Trey's got other turnouts here. Nope, that's it. So let's go back to Dave. Okay, so let's say we're going to simultaneously dispose of this piece of equipment. But what I don't quite want to do yet is permanently get rid of all of its maintenance records. Don't want to do that, not yet. I will at some point, but not today. So Dave's, and again, this is all examples, guys. So it's hoods, boots, I'm going to go ahead and archive that. And so what's happening is it's off my active table of equipment, but it's not gone, nor are the maintenance records gone. They're up here in this little banker's box. And just do an expand all. And you can see Dave's equipment and as others that have been archived are listed here. But it's like, oops, I didn't mean to archive it. I can actually go in and unarchive the two things that I meant to archive. So the archive table preserves the piece of equipment, all of its maintenance history, all of its ownership history, but it takes it off the active table so that when you run reports in the system on your current and active pieces of equipment, it will not appear. In order for that to appear, you have to unarchive it. But think it's just it's a storage room for it's a storage folder for all of the disposed equipment that you just don't want to quite get rid of yet. So I hope that answers that question for you, Brad. And Elliot, as far as the documenting disposal and out of service. But Elliot, your question is this. So let's say Dave, so we're going to go in and edit it. And this is the one that kind of goes along with Spencer's question. So here it's assigned to Dave. I'm going to change this to no longer be assigned to any person, but it is now going to be at the warehouse. Okay, and temporarily assigned to Dave Adams, now placed back in storage. Okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and save that. And again, this was imported, so it doesn't have all the information in here. That's why it's giving me the red icons, which is good. It's what we want it to do. Okay, and so now that piece of equipment is assigned to the warehouse. Now, it went off the grid here because I'm filtering by Dave Adams. Go back to PPE. And now this one's in the warehouse. So that's the way I would do it. And I know it may be a little extra work for you, Spencer, but to me, it seems like good practice to track it for its entire lifespan, even if it's going back and forth occasionally when other turnouts go out for repair. And so now I can look at its history and see ownership was started out with Tommy, went to Dave, and now it's back in the warehouse. All right, we're on a roll here. Okay, let me look at some of these other questions. Monroe Fire, this is from Sheila, will be getting new turnout gear in the fall. Can we import this gear from an Excel spreadsheet? Great question. The answer is absolutely, especially if you're getting dozens of pieces of equipment. Let's jump there real quick and then we'll come back here to the main grid. So those of you that have administrative privileges, you would do this. You're going to go to admin. You're going to see that you have equipment import here. Click on that. Download the template. It looks like this. Give it a second to load. All right, and then you will fill out that template as best as possible. I believe, especially with PPE, the more information you have, the better. And keep in mind NFPA 1851, what they ask for. And it's not a hard spreadsheet to fill out. Make sure the ID, you've got a unique ID, and that you don't change the spelling of your categories or existing subcategories, and then import them. One important caveat on this that you'll run into, Sheila, is right here. It will import into a non-safety analytics PPE category. If you have safety analytics that includes PPE here, you will just have to bulk move them up like I did earlier. Piece of cake, couple check marks, and then, so for example, you would move it and just edit that maintenance record to show the correct category that you want it to be in, because we can't import into these categories, but it doesn't preclude you from quickly moving them into the right category and subcategory. So Mike, we're going to get into your question. Do I get an alert? Do you get an alert when a piece of equipment expires? So it doesn't automatically email, but there is a part of our system I'm going to go to next that will show you all of this. Okay. Jim, right now, no barcoding yet in our system, but great question. And that we're getting asked that more and more, so appreciate that. All right. So one of the things that you will not all have unless you have the full safety analytics package is right up here, this assigned PPE button. This is going to take you to where you can create PPE ensembles, okay, and see at a glance the status of each individual. Now, this is a demo account, and so everybody is essentially having in trouble here, okay? But you can create PPE settings, so you can bundle your PPE ensembles, and it's pulling from, so this would be, as I say, wildland, okay? Now, what I don't have in this account is wildland coat, wildland coat, wildland pants, wildland boots, but I would have those as subcategories also in my PPE main category, and then I would select the ones that I want to be part of this ensemble. So just so if anybody else comes in this test account, we'll just call it test, and it's going to essentially mimic the one I have above, but I want to show it to you anyway. And so I just created an ensemble. Now I go back and I want to add people to a selected set. Whoops. And I did operator error here, hang on. Okay, nope, that's good. Okay. And we're gonna go back to assign PP. Now it's here. Sorry, don't do what I did. I always teach this. Don't use the nav buttons up here. Use the buttons in the system, otherwise what you did won't be saved, and then you'll go back and wonder what happened, like I just did. So we're gonna click test gear, and I'm gonna add people. So all my wildland firefighters. So for example, let's just say it's Dave and Tim and Tommy and Mike and Dan. Again, just as an example, those four now have those pieces of equipment assigned to them as part of an ensemble. So we're going to go back so it makes better sense here in the structural gear. I can see here with Dave, he's a red icon, okay, because he doesn't have a full serviceable PPE set. So what that means is he's got his gloves assigned to him, but I don't see any other piece of equipment assigned to him. You can see it again shows unassigned. Obviously, if it's not assigned, it hasn't had a regular inspection, an NFPA annual inspection, or even a replacement date. All of this data set, and there's links here to take you back to that piece of equipment. So if I click unassigned, I can actually go to the grid and get a piece of equipment assigned to him quite quickly. But we don't want to do that right now. I showed you how to do that earlier, and it's really easy to do. But what I want to show you is all of this information feeds this gauge in safety analytics. And this goes with Catherine's question. That PPE comes with the full safety analytics package. So the things I had showed you earlier, you can manage your PPE no problem without it. This just gives you an enhanced, really easy tool to track and see the state of your gear that's assigned to personnel within your department. So with that, we'll jump over to analytics. And everybody has organization and wellness and behavior, but this magic gauge here, PPE, and you can see, I'm going to show you a best practice example from an actual customer and how well they're using this. This is a test account, but all 32 of my firefighters that feed this gauge, and again, that all comes back to the 32 listed here, okay? I can see at a glance that I have 32 firefighters that either don't have a complete ensemble, they're past its replacement date, or the PPE it's out of service. If I were in the red with anybody, you would be able to know that I have a PPE without a routine or advanced inspection. It's missing its routine or advanced inspection. It doesn't have an NFPA annual test. I probably can fight fire, but someone probably has not documented what they should have documented. And then green means we're good to go. So again, to both Catherine and Adam, in order to get the PPE button and subsequent features, that is part of the full safety analytics package, and your regional rep can help you with that as far as what that might entail for your organization. And again, one thing I can do that's really cool is I can quick link over, check out Rogers. It'll take me straight to Rogers gear with one click, and I can start managing it accordingly. So this is a demo account, messy. Let's go look at a nice account. All right. So this is, and all the names are scrambled to protect the innocent. And we do that because my buddy in South Korea, this is one of our Army customers, they do an incredible job with safety analytics. And so this is all of his personnel, and I can see a couple of them have everything issued. So this is what a real account's going to look like. Got a couple that haven't had their last regular inspection, so it's showing red. Some of these other personnel, they are golden. They've got an ID number issued to them. It's in service, inspected, annually inspected, the more deep dive inspection, the more thorough inspection, and nothing is past its replacement date. So that's great. He's got that extremely well organized. How can this help me tell my story a little bit better? This is where it really comes and takes shape. He's at 95%. He has nobody that is in the black. They have all their ensembles, okay? They have a full ensemble. Nothing's past its replacement date, and no PPEs out of service. Up here, remember we saw a couple of them in that one ensemble, 2 out of the 5. They are missing their routine or advanced inspection or haven't had an NFPA annual test, but we saw those 2, and those 2 were missing their routine inspection. 71 out of his 76 personnel issued turnouts are in full compliance. And so this gauge lets you see it and then go to and improve that documentation. So we'll go to this firefighter, A shift turnouts is how he's organized it. That person will automatically open, and he's got a lot of people here, so this grid takes a little bit long for his department to open. It will open, it just takes a couple seconds. So while that's opening, I want to take a peek at any other questions I may have not answered. So Kaylin, you can, the designation of a spare and primary. So my recommendation on designating spare versus primary, and again, you'll be able to show, they'll show both their pieces of equipment here. And as long as one of them's good to go, but one's out cleaning, they're still in the green. All right, but as far as documenting that, my recommendation would be on the ID number perhaps to put in an indicator that would indicate it as a secondary piece of equipment. So something in the ID number, I think, would be a wise way to do it, to identify it as their spare piece of equipment. And then I'll certainly entertain anybody else's ideas, or maybe if how they're doing it there too in your department. Certainly type that in, and I'll share that with everybody, or I'll unmute your mic. While we're doing that and that page is loading, got 2 quick questions for the poll. We got about 20 minutes left. Just curious. What type of agency do you guys work for? Career, volunteer, combo, or DoD or federal? I'll take a couple seconds to do that. Thanks, everybody. Right on. Again, multitaskers, look up real quick, or go to that second screen and take a quick vote. Keep it open for 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Share the results real quick here. This is interesting. I don't think we've ever had this before. So a little over a quarter volunteer and career, but almost half are combo, and some from DoD. Right on. That's unusual for that many combo to appear. So thanks, guys. Glad you're here. All right, hide results. We're going to do one more. And I know this may have been something you had asked when you registered, but again, for the webinar's sake, are you a prospect currently interested in learning more about emergency reporting, or you're currently an ER customer? And I know most everybody is an ER customer on here, but we still want to respect the prospects and hope they join the ER family. All right, almost everybody's voted. Closing on 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Thank you, everybody. Whoops. There we go. All right, so a few of you are prospects and most everybody are current customers, so great. Thank you guys for joining us today. That's it for the polls. Thanks for participating in those. Gives us some really helpful information. And one other thing, so I don't forget, down at the bottom of your go-to webinar control panel, there's a handout section. One is a main brochure that summarizes everything about emergency reporting, what we have to offer. And then the other one is a PowerPoint in PDF format that I put together called Making the Case for Safety Analytics. And it's a short document that just addresses some of the things we've talked about today as far as PPE, but it looks at every single gauge in safety analytics and helps you make the case for your organization that may be a worthwhile investment. Okay, so see, it opened up right to that person. All right. So next up, we're going to talk about reports before we wrap up the day here. Before I do that, I want to check in questions here. I'm hoping Spencer, Brad, Elliot, Sheila, Mike, Jim, Catherine, Adam, I've answered your questions. If I didn't answer your question, just say, hey, Tom, type in, hey, Tom, you missed me, and I'll come back to you. Is pricing of information available for the safety analytics module? Sean, it is. What I want you to do is send just to me, and I'll forward it to your rep, Tom, T-O-M, at emergencyreporting.com. Send me all your contact info, and I'll make sure your regional rep gets a hold of you. Okay, so reports. This is where you can add people to the list. And again, I just wanted to show you that you can, and I had done that before, adding personnel to a particular ensemble. This is the grid where you create the different ensemble sets. And then here's an example of a report. So this is going with, who asked, someone asked a report, Byron, okay? So one of the reports is report 1515, 1515. I selected from 2017 to 2019, PPE category, all equipment subcategories for this person for all maintenance types. So what you're seeing is all of the equipment assigned to this person, everything that was done to those pieces of equipment from 2017 to present. So category, turnout, subcategory, turnout boots. This is the item right here. And this is everything that was done. I use this as an example because this department is magnificent with this, and that's not an understatement. The person out here that I've worked with, he is a stickler. And the DoD, they have inspections, not unlike ISO, not unlike accreditation, called FESPA. And they needed all of this information among tons of other things for that particular inspection. And so you can see everything that's been done to that piece of equipment. So it's not costing a lot because they're doing inspections, they're taking good care of it. Now we're into the helmets, and I can parse this out and just select a certain subcategory if I wanted to. Anything that would be archived, in other words, disposed of, won't appear in this report. We don't want disposed equipment to be here, but if I needed to run that report, I could just unarchive that piece of equipment and run it from here as well. Let's take a look at a couple other reports. What did I have up here? Okay, that's just that. All right, let's go look at some other reports that pertain to maintenance. Okay, so here we've got equipment history for category, subcategory for maintenance type. So let's take that. We could spend the next hour or more going through these great reports. This one is one I just want to quickly show you. That again, we're going to go, let's go to today, yesterday, and we'll go all the way back to 2016. Okay, and I want to go to my category. Then this is a smart filter, and I want to see all my helmets. And I want to see every time that they did a routine. Where is it at? Inspection at the bottom. And here we go. And so hopefully it won't be too long. And so now you can see, now this isn't per person, this is all of the helmets. Okay, this is helmet A01, everything that's been done. And as I scroll through this, and it's a pretty lengthy report, but this is all my helmets. And now I'm on helmet 2, all of the inspections. So typically, this is good for the high level summary to get you all of the helmets and all of its routine inspections. A lot of times what people will do is the report I had showed you previously, because I can isolate it down, 1515, I can isolate it down to the individual and basically have an outstanding summary of that piece of equipment. Now, this particular report, notice how it says 4 assigned personnel. That's the current personnel it's assigned to, okay? But remember, the other reports where there's not a filter for an assigned person will show you everything, regardless of assignment. And this one, 1501, helps you with budgets. That's why that replacement date was a required field. If you remember, it wouldn't let me close it out until I entered that. So if I want to see everything that's coming up, and I'm hoping I get some results here, let's see, anything that was due to be replaced in 2019 will come up here. And so this helps me. Now, one thing they're not doing, this is facility extinguishers, one thing they're not doing is putting dollar amounts in, but it would give me a preliminary budget on what would be due for replacement and a rough budget for capital expenses. Let's see what else, what other one can I show you before we wrap up here, and then I want to address any pending questions that we've got. If you just want to see, this one's a great summary report. I just want to see everything that's assigned to firefighter so-and-so, and I want everything. It's just going to give me a nice summary sheet for that individual. So that's everything that's assigned to this person and the total dollar amount with sizes. So again, this is just a sampling of our reports in the system that allow you to manage your PPE, adhere to NFPA 1851, and again, the focus was on chapter 4.3 or 4.3.3. Again, the record keeping element of PPE management. And then the tools available to you within emergency reporting, including the full-on safety analytics. So let's look at see what we got left here for questions. Don't forget about those handouts that are available to you. Download those. Again, thank you everybody for the participating in the polls. So Jonathan's asking, I heard you mention Halligan previously. We are current premier customers with Halligan. Will the data done in that program go back to ER, or would we have to duplicate our records for both programs? So when it comes to apparatus and doing the apparatus, the checks and everything will come into our system. If you are managing, and this is to the best of my understanding, if you are managing your PPE exclusively in Halligan right now, that does not push over into our system. So just a heads up on that. Catherine's asking, and I'll let you all answer this one, but Catherine's asking, is this a full-time job for some departments? Now, I know some of the larger departments, they have quartermasters, they have safety officers, they have SCBA techs that help manage the PPE. My department, we had a firefighter that was also an SCBA tech. Some larger agencies have dedicated people that's their full-time 40-hour-a-week job is maintaining PPE. So maybe if all of you want to just kind of chime in, and you're welcome, Jonathan, if all of you kind of want to chime in on if your departments have a full-time person for PPE management, just kind of put that in the question, and just put your department name by it, that hey, Department X has a full-time person for PPE. The vast majority of departments do not, to my knowledge. Jonathan also is asking, a different Jonathan, is asking, where did you say the info was for some selling points for safety analytics? So Jonathan, if you look at your GoToWebinar control panel when you join the meeting today, down near the bottom, there's a section called handouts. There's 2 of them. One is just our general main brochure. The other is making the case for safety analytics, and it's just a very straightforward PDF version of a PowerPoint that talks about all 10 of the gauges in safety analytics. Catherine, you've got a stipend that allows that you get to be the quartermaster and then gives you a little bit of a stipend, but you're a volunteer. Very nice, adding value to your department that way. Under analytics for PPE, is there a universal PPE inspection form? Sean, great question. So what we don't have, like a building inspection, we don't have a specific form yet that can be tied to your PPE inspection form. What a lot of agencies will do is they'll take either a PDF version and form fillable PDF, electronic, and or a paper version, and then upload it into the files attachment when that routine inspection or advanced inspection is completed. So you'll have that documentation tied to the maintenance event within the system. Great question. And I think there's an opportunity there for us to have forms like we do for buildings and for rig checks for PPE as well. Jonathan F says we delegate that job to certain individuals in Butler, Pennsylvania. This is going back to Catherine's question about full-time positions for PPE managers. And so Mesquite Fire, hey, Mesquite, it's got to be Nevada, I'm hoping. Drove through there, beautiful. Mesquite Fire has one person assigned to that task, but not full-time, and I think that's pretty common in most organizations. All right. Well, I hope this gave you a good overview of what our system can do when it comes to managing PPE and adhering to NFPA 1851 for the documentation of such equipment, which is so arguably the most important equipment that we have, our SCBAs and our PPE, and being able to document that effectively here within emergency reporting. And keep in mind, both with and without the full safety analytics, you still have great tools at your disposal. Let's go back to the test account so I don't break anything over here. And you still have the ability, even if you don't have full-on safety analytics, to still manage your PPE nicely. And so a lot of it comes down to taking that elephant and just eating it one bite at a time, and organizing it, creating your categories, creating your subcategories, either manually adding or importing, like we quickly showed you today, importing equipment into that particular category, and then just getting in that habit of anytime you touch that piece of equipment for cleaning, for maintenance, for repairs, you're just documenting it, and then transfer of ownership, you're documenting that. And then in the event that you ever have to produce documentation for that particular piece of equipment, from the time you took it out of the wrapper to the time you got the request for that documentation, you can with confidence provide that report. Yeah, so good, really good stuff. Any other questions before we call it a wrap? Sean, you're very welcome. Thanks for joining today. Really appreciate it. And I'll get that email from you. Let's see. Someone had asked for pricing. Sean, yeah, send me that email and I'll make sure you connect you with your rep, and they'll be able to tell you pricing for the full safety analytics. Guys, we're going to be back next week. We're going to be doing streamlining your inspections, I believe, is the next topic. We're going to be doing this throughout the summer. There may be one break where we're going to be at FRI that we won't be doing it. So if any of you are going to Atlanta to Fire Rescue International, be sure to come by and visit us. I don't have our booth number up right now, but be sure to come by and visit us. And thanks for taking time out of your day today. Sure appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see all of you next week again. And if it's not going to be you, whoever does prevention in your department, forward them the link for the webinar and have them register for it. They're filling up fast. All right. Hey, guys, thanks for the kind words from Catherine, Spencer, Elliot, Ken, and Scott. And you're all very welcome. And wish you a safe summer. And hopefully we'll see you again real soon. Thanks, everybody.